Hello YouTube, how you guys doing today? Thanks for stopping by, being a passenger on the P Reacts Daily Train. I appreciate everybody that's been coming by and helping out with the channel. Please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out, especially since I'm a newer channel. Also, it helps with the algorithm. Don't forget, this is not a substitute for the original content, so go over to the original artist, watch it on their channel, give them a like, show them some love. Also, we don't redistribute any of the content, so we're following all the copyright rules. My name is P, and we'll get started on this video as soon as we see our disclaimer. Alrighty, today's video, we're going to be watching some top 10 disturbing discoveries found in the deep forest. Now, this is not a substitute for the original content. This is only a reaction to the original content. So go over to their channel. It's Most Amazing Top 10 is the name of their channel. Show them some love. Give them a like. Share the video. All right? So, yeah. So, let's do a like for them. And let's get started on this and check this out.
Torso wrapped in carpet, trappers found dead under frozen water, tripwires set to impale hikers, bones pulled from the woods by a dog. These are disturbing discoveries found deep in forests. In April 2015, two brothers were walking through a forest in North Wales when they noticed something strange sticking out of the ground near a forest track. At first they thought it was an animal bone. When they looked closer though, they realized it was actually a human skull, partially buried in the soil. They called police and the area was immediately sealed off. As officers searched the surrounding forest, they found almost an entire human skeleton scattered nearby. The remains belonged to an adult male, believed to be between 35 and 65 years old.
Man, that would be spooky. Coming across something like that. And then what happened? Did they get lost and then die from starvation? Or was it foul play and somebody did it? Or, you know, all those questions come to mind and it's like, oh my goodness.
Forensics found that the body had likely been in the forest for at least a decade, possibly even longer, but they had no idea who he was. Investigators also found no obvious signs of trauma on the bones, so they couldn't determine how he died either. To this day, the man has never been identified. In October 1991,
That's crazy. Never been identified. That, man, there's got to be some way. Somebody even in the area, or somebody that took a trip that never came home. Somebody you think would know something. It's got to be some kind of thing.
a 62-year-old man named Colin Oliver was walking home along a quiet lane near the village of Bolney in West Sussex, England, when he stopped to take a break off the side of the road. As he stepped into the nearby woods to relieve himself, he saw something that he would never forget. Torso wrapped up in a piece of carpet hidden in the undergrowth. That is the last thing you ever want to see when taking a leak. Anyway, he walked straight to the police station and reported it. When officers investigated the scene, they confirmed what he'd seen: a human torso, no head, no hands. One arm was cut above the elbow, the other below it. Police thought the limbs might have been taken off to hide tattoos or anything else that would make it easier for the remains to be identified. Months later, the remains were buried at a cemetery under the name Unknown Male. But that wasn't the end of the story. Decades later, in 2009, police exhumed the body and used newer forensic science to learn more. They now believe the victim was a well-built man between about 30 and 45 who'd likely spent at least some of the last year of his life in the UK or near the France-Germany border. Despite all that, no one's ever been identified or charged in connection with his death. His head and hands have never been found, and what exactly happened to this man before he was dumped in those woods, and why, remains a mystery more than 30 years later. In January...
Yeah, that's a common thing. Head and hands are missing because then it's harder to identify somebody because there's no fingerprints, there's no dental records, and there's no visual of the person. So that happens, you know, especially when somebody does it on purpose. So crazy, though. I just don't understand why people do that. It's really pointless. I mean, I don't see a reason for it. But, ooh, look at this scene. This is crazy. Imagine if you're in that little cabin all the way up here. Ooh, be cold, freezing, secluded, very dangerous, man.
1924, three experienced fur trappers, Edward Nichols, Roy Wilson, and Dewey Morris, headed into the snowy woods of Deschutes National Forest in Oregon to spend the winter trapping animals for their pelts. They'd rented a remote log cabin near Little Lava Lake to live and work through the season. The last time anyone saw them alive was January 15th, when a fellow outdoorsman snowshoed over, stayed the night, and then left the next morning. He later told police the three were in good spirits the night before. After that, nobody heard from them again. Weeks went by with no word back in town. By April 1924, people got worried enough to mount a search. What they found at the cabin was eerie. Burnt food left on the stove, a table set for a meal, coats and firearms had been left behind. Out near Little Lava Lake, searchers noticed a patch of disturbed ice. When the thaw opened it up, the bodies of all three men bobbed up from under the surface. Each had been violently attacked and their bodies weighed down beneath the frozen water for months. As for who was responsible, sheriffs investigated, but no suspect was ever arrested or convicted. The case is still a total mystery.
I wonder in that thing if it was a wild animal was chasing them and they just went and fell through the ice and drowned, or were there marks on the body from maybe a bear attacking them, or they're probably trying to get away from a wild animal, would be my guess on that. And then they fell into the ice water.
April 2012, on a popular hiking route in Provo Canyon, Utah, something disturbing was hiding just a few hundred yards off the trail. A U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officer named James Shelfler was doing a routine foot patrol when he noticed a thin tripwire stretched across a path near a crude shelter built by hikers. When Shelfler followed the line of the wire, he found a booby trap straight out of Predator. One device was made with rope and fishing line connected to a 20-pound rock with sharpened sticks attached to it. Someone stepped on the tripwire, would swing down at roughly head or chest level. A second tripwire nearby was set so that a person walking in would fall forward onto a cluster of sharpened wooden stakes planted in the ground. Both traps were right at the entrance points of the shelter, the spot hapless hikers could easily have walked through. Luckily, Shelfler got here first. Being trained in recognizing dangerous devices from his military experience, he disarmed both traps before anyone was hurt. Police later tracked down two men, 19-year-old Benjamin Stephen Rotowski and 21-year-old Kai Matthew Christensen. They were arrested on suspicion of reckless endangerment. The men told police they set the traps to catch wildlife like wild boars or rabbits, but police didn't buy the explanation. Plus, even if they were trying to hunt animals, someone could have easily died. The traps were so close to a busy trailhead, just about a mile from where people start their hikes, so these guys were either malicious psychos or, at best, just total idiots.
Yeah, that sounds like somebody was doing that on purpose for a person. Because an animal and right on a trail, that makes no sense.
Story comes from a now deleted Reddit user and goes as follows. I was hiking a rarely used trail in northern Ontario last spring. I go out a lot alone, mostly to hike and get away from the city. I noticed something off about the smell before I saw it. First I thought it was a dead deer, but as I got closer, I realized it was a partially skinned coyote pinned to a tree with wire. Someone had stretched it out, legs tied back, and left it hanging at eye level. Next to it were smaller bones scattered in a circle, ribs, paw bones, a skull that didn't match the coyote. I didn't linger. I backtracked to the main trail and have not been back since. In April 1978, a man and his brother were mushrooming in bushland beside Swamp Road near the town of Truro, South Australia, and they thought they saw a cow bone. When they looked closer, they realized it was attached to a shoe, and inside the shoe was human skin and painted toenails. Police were called, and what followed was one of the most chilling series of discoveries in Australian bushland. Over the next year, police searched the area and found the skeletal remains of multiple women and girls. These remains belonged to several missing women who'd vanished from Adelaide in late 1976 and early 1977. Some of the remains were just bones scattered among clothing and personal items, far from any road or town, and they all led back to a man later identified as Christopher Robin Worrell. and his accomplice, James Miller, who both had a very strange and complicated relationship. The two had met in prison and eventually began cruising around picking up women before ending their lives. James Miller apparently never actually touched any of the women himself, but he ended up being convicted and doing the time because Christopher Worrell died in a car crash before either of the men were ever caught. In August 1947, two pot...
That is crazy. I mean, a guy in a car crash, yeah. That's, what's it called? When it comes back around, not your aura, oh my goodness. My mind is blank. I'm fighting a headache today. Karma. Karma come back around and got him because he wasn't get caught fast enough. But then the other guy got in trouble for it because he was there, even though he didn't do anything. But then again, how would you even know? He might have done something. He probably was in on some of it, I'm sure.
Holers exploring a cave in North Yorkshire, England, discovered something laying under a pile of stones deep inside a narrow passage. After squeezing through a low entrance, they saw a pair of shoes and a human skeleton lying under a large rock. The bones were old, but some of the man's belongings were still there. There was a suit, a hat, matches, and some toiletries. Police couldn't figure out who the man was or how he ended up in the cave, but there was a bottle of sodium cyanide, a poisonous chemical, which meant the man may have taken his own life. Nobody reported a missing person that matched him though, and over 70 years later, the identity of the skeleton is still a mystery. In 1970,
that is crazy. So he's on the run or scared for his life or something and then went with the cyanide. That's something that usually government people do or something if they're not want to be caught for some reason.
For a group calling themselves the North American Wildlife Research Team built something bizarre deep in the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest in southern Oregon. They weren't hunting deer or mountain lions, they were trying to catch a Bigfoot. Using wood planks and heavy metal bands, they constructed what looked like a giant animal trap, about 10 feet long and 4 feet tall, anchored down with telephone poles and baited with carcasses. The idea...
So tell me what's your thoughts about Bigfoot. I think it's possible that there could be what they call Bigfoot, but like what is Bigfoot? In my opinion, if there is Bigfoot, then it could be like the early people, like the cavemen or something that are still around, you know, because maybe some stayed alive. Maybe after that happened, they hid, you know, because they were so scared from the meteors and stuff like that from the dinosaur days or whatever. And maybe they just live in the woods, and because they did live outside like that and in caves and things. So that's a very good possibility. They could be the cavemen from the caveman days, and they just hide out because now they see all these other people that don't look like them, and so they're just scared, and so they stay out in the woods. It's very possible. And actually, I live in Washington State in the United States. There's actually laws that says you're not allowed to shoot or capture Bigfoot. So if that's in the real government laws, then there probably has been proof and sightings and stuff like that, because we do have a lot of wooded areas.
The idea was that if something big enough wandered in, the doors would drop and it would be caught inside. For 6 years, the trap sat out there, hundreds of yards from any road. They maintained it, checked it regularly, baited it with animal carcasses, but they never caught a Sasquatch. They did catch a couple bears, though. By the early 80s, the project was abandoned, but the trap sat there for decades. It was eventually moved to a hiking trail as this weird roadside attraction, where it still sits today. In August 2024, a family in Jefferson County, Alabama started noticing their German Shepherd mix was bringing home human bones. The first time it happened, the dog came back from the nearby woods carrying what looked like a human skull. Tests later confirmed it belonged to an unidentified person. There was a bullet wound on the bone. Over the next several months, the dog returned with more pieces, parts of a leg, a jawbone, all of them dragged out of the surrounding woods. Police ran forensic tests, confirming all the bones came from the same person. They decided to put a tracking device on the dog to try and find where the remains were coming from, but it never located a source. As of the latest updates, investigators still haven't identified the victim or figured out where the bones came from. And finally, this Reddit user came across a mysterious list in the woods. This was last summer, they write. I was hiking alone on public land, went off trail to follow a creek. About 10 minutes in, I saw a piece of printer paper nailed to a tree at around shoulder height. It had been laminated. It was a list, about 20 lines long, with stuff like blue jacket, red backpack, dog, medium size, hiking poles, solo, couple, truck, white. Some items were crossed out, some weren't. Next to a few of them were dates written in pen, recent dates, within the last couple weeks. I stood there longer than I should have, trying to figure out what it could be for. There was also fresh nail holes below the paper, like older sheets had been put there and removed. I didn't take a photo, I wish I had, but at the time, it felt like a bad idea to pull my phone out and stand there any longer. I took a different way back and stayed on trail after that. Went back with a friend a week later. The paper was gone. And that has been the video for today. I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next one.
That is so strange. A note of just random things like out in the woods. That's so weird. It's like it don't make sense. Like somebody, maybe they're just, I don't know. Maybe it was something to do with maybe Halloween or something, and they were going to put something out there, and that was a list of things they needed to put there, because that would be kind of random. Even if you were a serial person that was gonna get somebody and you wanted that list, I mean, that would be so random. I mean, the odds of somebody showing up with all that stuff just don't make sense. So I don't know, that's just so weird to me. Very strange, very strange. But yeah, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all the help you guys have been giving on the channel. You beautiful people have a great day, and goodbye for now.